Okay, this is the first time that I've actually live streamed our Bible study, but since it's a special occasion, we have Noel Stafford here. Anybody who was here last night, we met the whole family and we had a good time. I will make the introduction extremely brief. In fact, I'm done. Come on in.
Before I get started, I want everybody to know we will be moving to Tanzania around the first of the year, and so we will have an email newsletter, and if you're interested in keeping up with what we're doing, we'll do this monthly, and so if you're interested, just put your name and your email, just make sure we can read it so we can put it, and so by the end of this year, early next year, you'll start getting emails from us about what we're doing, and if you want to keep up with us, you're welcome to put that up there. I just want people to be able to know what's going on, especially people that are supporting us. It's important for y'all to know what we're doing. But also, we have a Kilimanjaro Missions on Facebook page, which we will also be posting more frequently if you want to get on there and look at that. First of all, we chose Kilimanjaro Missions, the name. We will be in Tanzania, East Africa, in Moshi, Tanzania, and we will be at the foothill of Mount Kilimanjaro. A little introduction. My name is Noel Stafford. My wife, Jessica. We have 4 kids, Lorna, Arabella, Claude, and Juliet. I do need to update the grades. They're all just finished these grades, so they're going into the next grade. I live in Clifton, Tennessee. I'm a chicken farmer. That's what I've been doing for the last 5 or 6 years, and we're excited. We love doing it, and that's what we do. Just a little introduction. Both me and Jessica are Freed-Hardeman graduates, which is in Henderson, Tennessee. I have a bachelor's degree in Bible with emphasis in missions. Jessica also got a degree there in finance. We're both missionary families. Her parents did mission work in Moscow, Russia in the mid-90s for 4 years. And then, as you can see, in 1991 to 1994, we lived in Chamala, Tanzania. And if you look on the top right, that is my family. My dad's on the left. I'm in the back right. And then you'll see Jeremiah in the middle, in the front. Nothing's changed. And then we also had a cousin that lived with us for a few years in Tanzania, Ashley, in there too. And we had a great time. We loved Chamala. And I'll show you kind of on the map in a minute where Chamala is compared to where we are now. But in 1991, a man by the name of Andrew Connolly came to our church in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and talked about Chamala mission work. Well, it wasn't 6 months later, and we lived in Tanzania. And so ever since the 1991, Tanzania has been part of our life. It's been part of my parents' life, and obviously me and my brothers. And so we love Tanzania, and it's always going to be part of who we are. Now, a little bit about me and some of my experience. While I was at Freed-Hardeman, I did do a lot of campaigns, both statewide and international. 2 different summers. One summer I went to Bangkok, Thailand, and then the other summer I went to Mito, Japan. What I did was teach English, but using the Bible as the curriculum, and so I did learn a lot about doing Bible studies. I had never done a Bible study when I went on these 2 trips, and so I got a lot of experience and got a lot of confidence. I also realized that if you have the willingness to try to do Bible studies, to share the gospel, that God's going to help you. He's going to help guide you through that. And I learned a lot in those few years. But I also did do stateside stuff. A group of guys, or a group of people would go to different states. Like we went to Kentucky, different places, Tennessee, and do a gospel meet, do door knocking while we were doing that. And so did a lot of that while we were in college. And then 2002, I went to Arusha, Moshi, which is where we're going to be moving, with a group from Freed-Hardeman. And this is actually where me and my wife met and got to know each other. We actually went on our first date in 2002 while we were doing these campaigns, and then a year later we were married. Now jump forward to January of 2020. I had to sit down with me and my wife had to sit down with my father-in-law, and then my mother was there also. And the Lord finally opened the door for us to do mission work again. We've always wanted to do mission work. Going on that mission trip in 2002, that is really what brought us together, is our mission-minded. We were both that way. And so finally, January 2020, the door opened for us, and it didn't really take a lot of thought. We knew that's what we wanted to do. And so, obviously, 2 months later, COVID hit, so it kind of dampened our plans, but we did finally get to go at the end of September, and then for about 3 weeks into October in 2020. And so, on this survey trip, we had 3 main goals. Obviously, we had both been to Tanzania, so we knew about the culture, we knew about the people, but we had 3 goals on this trip. The first was obviously we needed to learn our budget, how much we were going to have to fundraise, what kind of budget we were going to deal with. Secondly, we wanted to get a glimpse of the people we'd be working with and get to know them better. And so we did a lot of that. We got to meet a lot of people. The leadership conference they have every year happened to be when we were there. So we got to meet over 100 preachers throughout all of Tanzania and surrounding country. So it was a good opportunity. But the third reason we went there was to figure out exactly where we were needed. The mission work that is there now is focused in Arusha, Tanzania, which I'll talk more about later. But it's also have a side part, which is Moshi, which is about 2 hours away. And the work there is struggling. It's not nearly as strong as it is in Arusha, and that's why we have decided to work in Moshi. It's a lot smaller town, a lot easier for an American to be over there, but that's where we're needed, and that's where we're going to go. And we'll definitely talk more about that. Just a little bit about Africa first. Africa, like he said, it's a very big continent. It's more than one country. There's 54 countries in Africa. You can see Tanzania is right here. Some of the other countries you think of when you think of Africa, I know Kenya is very famous. That's for a hospital for us. There's about Nairobi, Kenya is going to be about 3 or 4 hours away. So that's one good benefit about being in Tanzania. Now, I told you earlier we lived in Chamala. Chamala is right on the outside of Mbeya. Mbeya is about 45 minutes away. That is the first closest place to have a landline when we lived there. We didn't have permanent electricity. All we had was a generator. We didn't have no cell phones, no landline. And so we always went to Mbeya for groceries, food, and then to use a phone if we needed. But now we are all the way completely opposite. This is Arusha. Arusha is a very big place. Doesn't look like it on the map, but it's one of the bigger cities in Tanzania. And then on Moshi, it's right there on the border of Tanzania. The population of Tanzania is about over 60 million people. So it's a very big country, about twice the size land-wise of the state of California. When you look at Arusha and Moshi, they say it's only 45 minutes apart, but with Arusha having almost close to 750,000 people, it takes over an hour just to get through town. When you're talking about the streets and traffic, it's nothing like here. It's not necessarily as many cars as you would think, but the laws and people like passing and stuff, they don't care about lines, they don't care about the few lights they do have, and so it's chaotic when you drive, very dangerous, and so it's not easy to drive through Arusha, and so it's a little chaotic in Arusha. And the preacher school, which I'll talk about in a minute, is on the other side of Arusha, and so it's from Kisongo, which is where the preacher school is, all the way to Moshi, is roughly about 2 hours away. The population of Moshi is a lot less than Arusha. It's about 200,000+ people, but it's definitely a lot calmer there, a lot easier to deal with driving and stuff like that, so it'll be a lot easier. Now, Tanzania is a very beautiful place. On the left is Mount Meru, which is in Arusha. This picture is actually taken from where my parents used to live, from their back porch. And then on the right, Mount Kilimanjaro in Moshi. On a clear day, you can see this beautiful mountain. Not always clear, but on a clear day, you can see Mount Kilimanjaro. Now, obviously, people love, when they think of Africa, they think of the wildlife. And Tanzania is one of the top places to go to for the wildlife. In the Arusha, Moshi area, they're very famous and popular places. I know a lot of people have heard of the Serengeti, but you also have the Ngorongoro Crater, you have the Arusha National Park, and then other places also. So the wildlife is great. There's a lot of beautiful animals to see. And pretty much you can see any animal in Africa just in that small radius of area. But the reason we are going to Tanzania is the people. The people of Tanzania are great, very hospitable, very loving, give you the shirt off the back. They invite you to supper. They're going to give you their best and beyond that. And so the people in Tanzania they love people, they love Americans, they treat you like royalty. But the greatest thing about doing mission work in Tanzania is they want to hear about the gospel. They're very open to doing Bible studies. If you're anybody that would be willing to go do Bible studies, just walking down the street, door knocking, or just walking through the village, you can have as many Bible studies as you want. The people are very open and receptive to the Word. And that's why going to Tanzania is a great opportunity for missionaries full-time, but it's also a great opportunity for a congregation like this to send a small group for a couple of weeks to come over to do a campaign, to do a gospel meeting, to do Bible study. It's very eye-opening for Christians that maybe never done a Bible study before. It's a very good thing, and I'll talk about it later, but they have Safari for Souls, and it's one of the great the Arusha Moshi work. It's one of the best things that they've done these over 20 years is Safari for Souls. It's giving people the opportunity to come see what we're doing, but also be a part of that. Now, in 1998, the Tanzania Missions it was originally called TZ2000. This is my dad, Cy Stafford. He started it. And what happened while we were living in Chamala, Tanzania in the early 90s, he had a lot of conversations with the man by the name of Andrew Conley, who started the work in Tanzania. And so Andrew and my dad had a lot of conversations about what Andrew thought he wished he would have done different. And those talks led to what my dad started in the late 90s, Tanzania Missions. And part of his goals were to have, obviously, to evangelize, to church plant, have preacher training, leadership, and congregational self-reliance. What his ultimate goal was to work himself out of a job. He wanted the Tanzanians to be able to evangelize and for the churches to be self-reliant, not need American money to support. And so they're working on that. A lot of this has been accomplished way above and beyond. A lot of the work on leadership is still taking a lot of time, and the self-reliance in some of the smaller congregations. It is a third world country. People don't have jobs. So the self-reliance, it's more about the preacher making himself more self-reliant, being able to work, or making himself reliant. And so that part is taking time, but a lot of his goals and plans haven't been accomplished, especially when you're talking about Arusha, where the majority of the work has been done. A lot more needs to be done in Moshi, and that's what we'll be part of. Now, and since the late 90s, they worked in Chamala, my parents, from 91 to 94, and then 98 to 2016, he dedicated his life to the work in Arusha and also in Moshi. In that time, the Andrew Klein School of Preaching was built, and has been going on for over 20 years. There have been over 150 congregations planted, or even more. There's 2 Bible schools, with a third actually fixing to open, which I'll talk about the Bible schools more in a little while. And then now they are starting the Cy Stafford School of Leadership that hasn't started yet, but it's going to be opening probably in the spring of next year. As I don't know if you know, but my dad passed away early 2017, but the work is going stronger, especially in the last year or two. People have stepped up, and things are going great. Now, this is Daniel Gaines. He's a former missionary to the Arusha work. He actually took over basically what my dad was doing, and so in the last year or two, things have changed a little bit. Hoover Church of Christ in Hoover, Alabama has overtaken the work. They're ultimately responsible for the work, while Bear Valley, which is in Denver, Colorado, Preacher School is over just the Preacher School. And so they kind of they're teaming up, and then Daniel kind of is the liaison between them both. But what Daniel mostly does, he does a lot of reporting to congregations that are supporting the work already, but he's also continuously fundraising for the work. They're always building new churches. Preachers need to be supported at least in the beginning, so he's always raising funds. But he spent several months out of the year also in Tanzania, working at the preacher school, visiting some of these congregations that have been planted through the years, to check on them, but also if they need help. So he's a very busy man. He's definitely doing a good job, and he was the guy that my dad wanted to take his place because he knew his love for Tanzania. Now, in the next few minutes, I'm going to go over some of the stuff in the last 20 years that has been accomplished and that they're doing in Tanzania missions, but most of it is focused on Arusha. And so our goal ultimately will be to bring some of that enthusiasm to Moshi, and for Moshi to be as strong as it is in Arusha. Because Arusha, there's a few congregations that have been there 15, 20 years that have elders, have leadership, and that's a big deal. But there's just a handful of congregations in Tanzania that have that kind of leadership. And that's not something you can just start. It takes 15, 20 years to have men become Christians and to have the ability to mature enough to be a leader in the congregation. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but that's something that we want to see in Moshi in time too. Now this is the preacher school. It's not the greatest picture. You see on the right, that is Andrew Conley. They named it after him because of his dedication and his life given to Tanzania. The preacher school, let's see. It's located in a small village just outside of Arusha called Kisongo Church of Christ, or about in Kisongo. It's a very small village. Now the preacher school has a lot going on there. It has a library there that books have been donated by churches like this. There's classrooms, a kitchen. The students live there for 2 years. There's dormitories for all the students, but also guest quarters for visitors that come. There's also a large patio area where they eat, but it can hold over 100 people in that patio. So it's great for big groups that are coming, like the leadership conference, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the great thing that they also do at preacher school is they're teaching them other stuff rather than just the preach. They're teaching them how to be self-reliant. And so on the outside of the grounds, you'll see they'll have chickens, they'll have broilers, some that lay eggs, they're growing crops. They're teaching them the best way to, whatever it is, the animals, the vegetation, how to get water to it, the easiest way to get water to it. So they're teaching them all these different things. So when they go to their small village, they can help for themselves, but also for the village in that area to help them be able to do all this stuff. And so they're training them not just biblical in the Bible, but also to do all that other stuff. And so far there have been over 200 graduates from the preacher school. And the good thing about Bear Valley being over the preacher school is they actually do get a bachelor's degree in Bible, but they also have the opportunity to get a master's degree too. And so there's a lot of great opportunities for them there. Now these two men are the co-directors. Especially after my dad passed away, these two men have really had to step up and have done a great job. And that's another reason why we chose not to focus all our time in Arusha. these two men are doing a wonderful job at the preacher school. They're working together, making sure things are happening smoothly, especially last year with COVID and us not being able to get over there as easily. They were able to accomplish the same things that we do every year, and so it's a very good thing that we got to see last year. Now this is just a picture of graduation of the preacher school, but also the Bible school. Now the Bible school, it allows anyone to come in, and I'll talk about that in a second. That's why you see some ladies in there. That's not from the preacher school, but from the Bible school. Now this is a picture of the Stafford Leadership School. Hopefully it's going to start probably around the first of the year. Basically what they're going to do is teach men, mostly I think the preachers, but any type of men that are in the congregations that are taking that step to be a leader. They'll come in here 2 or 3 weeks at a time, kind of like a short course class, and then go back to their home and do their write papers, read books, whatever that is, then come back 2 or 3 months later and do this for like a year. And they're just really focusing on men learning how to be leaders in the congregation and how a church needs to be run, not just biblically, but financially, teaching them how to deal with money, but also spiritually, how to become an elder and stuff like that. And so they're working on the curriculum now, and so I'll know more about curriculum next time I come through and visit and know what they're actually going to be teaching. But there's a lot of good things, and this is something that they've been wanting to happen for several years now. There's 2 Bible schools. One is in downtown Arusha. This is Kamaragi. He's the director of that. And then we have the guy on the right, Josephat Masawe. He's the director, but he's also the preacher at the Kilimanjaro Bible School and Kilimanjaro Church. The Bible schools are a lot different than the preacher school. The Bible schools are more for the everyday person. If you could be a Christian, non-Christian, it is a 2-year commitment. What you do is you go in 3 or 4 nights out of the week for a couple hours a night, and you're just learning the Bible. It's just like going to Bible class, and it's more intense learning than just going to worship once or twice a week. These people are really studying the Bible, and Christians are able to grow and mature a lot quicker if they participate in these classes, because they're studying their Bible on a daily basis, not just when they're there, but when they're at home. And so it helps the church grow. And there's also a lot of people converted that come to these classes just to want to learn more about the Bible. But also there's preachers that come out of the school that go to the preacher school and then come back and preach in this other congregations. And so Bible schools really benefit the churches. And like I said, there's 2, and then there's going to be a 3rd one. Hopefully it's already there, and they're going to hopefully start soon at where the preacher school is in Kisongo. Now, I talked about Safari for Souls. It's one of the best things I think they do with the Arusha work, because it helps the church grow. There's so much evangelism during the summer. It happens usually between May and through July. Anywhere from 75 to 100, a little over 100 people show up. What it is congregations just make a group. It could be several congregations make a group, and they go over there and do different things. Some people help build stuff. Some people do Bible studies. Some people do like a gospel meeting, a VBS for kids, Ladies' Day. It just depends on the congregation, what they want to do or what needs to be done. And one of our focuses is to have a lot of campaigners come into Moshi and help out there to really energize the church in Moshi. And that's one of our big goals, is for that to happen. And so a lot of campaigners come over there. They do Bible studies. They pass out tracts. They pass out Bible correspondence courses. And this helps out any missionaries or even any of the preachers in the area to continue the Bible studies after the short term people leave. And so it's very beneficial. There's always several people that obey the gospel during those months. Now they do some stuff for the kids too during the summer over there. They have a future preacher training camp, similar to like the Lads and Leaders they do. It's just a week of intense teaching them basic stuff, how to study your Bible, how to preach, how to song lead. And so it's a great time. They have fun, but they also learn. And then a few weeks later, they also have just a Tanzania Christian camp. It's usually while the preachers are not in school, so the kids are able to stay in the dormitories at the preacher school. So for that week, they get to eat really well for them, and then they get to learn about the Bible, but also they get to have a lot of fun and enjoy their time. They really do a lot of good things. And one good thing is, this is usually led by Americans, but last year, with everything going on, it still happened and went smoothly and went great. It was good to see that. And then also the Tanzania Leadership Conference. This happens every year. All the preachers throughout Tanzania, but also the surrounding countries like Uganda, Kenya, stuff like that, they come here for like 3 or 4 days, and it's really good training on leadership, but also just any type of issues that are going on, which are not going to be the same as here, but going on in the churches in Tanzania, which you would never think about, but they have different issues. And so they talk about that, they talk about finances, and then it's just a good way for the preachers to get just a better understanding from preachers that are more mature Christians that are coming in there to preach or teach these classes, kind of like polishing the pulpit kind of thing. And so it's a good way for them just to get a lot better study of the Bible while they're there. Now, Tanzania Missions 2020, even though very few Americans were able to go over there and accomplish what they normally accomplish, there was still a lot accomplished. 24 students at the preacher school, 8 of them actually graduated. 4 of the students actually got their master's degree in Bible. There were over 239 baptisms, which 58 of them were from the preacher students. One congregation was rescued, was vanishing, but they fixed it and things are better now. The 2 camps were hosted, and leadership camp was hosted, being Tanzania led. And so all this stuff was able to happen with minimal help. And so it was very exciting to see all this going on in Arusha. Now, me and Jessica will be part of this work. We'll be very involved with Tanzania missions. But majority of this is going to be in Arusha. And so we will be involved and help where we're needed. For right now, there are no full-time missionaries. And so we'll help out there when we're needed, but our focus will be in Moshi, Tanzania. Hoover Church of Christ, I told you they're over the work. They're also going to be our overseeing congregations. They're collecting our funds, but they're also going to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And they definitely will be over there a lot. I know one of the elders is going to be over there a couple times a year, and then some of the men in the missions part of the church will be coming to visit and helping out and getting involved. Since me and Jessica had been to Tanzania back in the fall, we told them what we thought needed to be done, and they're definitely on board to help the work in Moshi go forward, to help Moshi work grow. And so that's what we're going to be concentrating on, is the work in Moshi. First, like I said, we will be working with everything that we talked about today. We're going to be involved with that. We're going to be involved with campaigns. But our focus will be in Moshi to help it grow. First, we want to continue to forge an evangelistic partnership between Moshi and Arusha. Like I said, we want Moshi to be where Arusha is now. And so that's going to be one thing we want to accomplish. We want to be involved with ongoing Tanzania missions. We want to keep that going, be involved with what's going on already. We want to aid in the growth of not just the church, but the Bible school. When we were there, the church there had 25 to 30 members, so we want to help the church grow. There's over 200,000 people in Moshi, and so there's a lot of potential there, and so we want to work with that. But the Bible school only had about 8 students at the time, and half of them were about to graduate. So we want to work on helping Josephat, the director, First of all, if he needs help teaching, if he needs new curriculum, if he needs, I want more people there. There needs to be more people learning the Bible and studying the Bible, and so that's going to be one of our focuses. A lot of it, especially in the first couple of years, it's going to be about personal evangelism. I'm definitely going to be leading by example, doing it myself, but also working with the congregation, trying to get them involved with the evangelism. We want to increase fellowship with congregations that are close to Moshi. They're not really that close. Hoover River is about an hour away, and Gombe is about 20 or 30 minutes away. And so we want to help these smaller villages and work with them and help them. Maybe have some of the campaigners go over there a few days while they're in Moshi, but help them grow and just help be with them and help them. We want to revitalize any failed congregations, especially in the Moshi area. One of my bigger goals while we're there is to do church plants. Tanzania being a third world country, it's not easy for somebody to just drive down the road 30, 45 minutes to go to worship. They can't do that. Majority of people do not have vehicles or even bikes, and so they're walking most of the time. And so there really needs to be more congregations for them to go to, especially if you go to an area where there might be 10 or 15 people that are Christians. They just don't have nowhere to worship. And so we're going to spend a lot of time trying to find those places, might not be able to plant a church right away, but we can get a preacher there that can show up at somebody's house and preach, or under a tree, whatever that is. And then in time, we would definitely try to do churches also if the church needs that. So that's going to be one of our focuses in the Moshi area. One way to get preachers at these churches that we hope to plant is hopefully get some of the men that are graduating from the Bible school to go to preacher school to come back. A lot of times when you think of the preacher schools, majority of them guys already know where they're going. They're going back to their home villages to preach. And so it's hard to pull preachers. There might be a few, especially if they're from, say, Arusha area where there's several churches in Arusha. But we're really hoping to pull some guys from the Bible school to go to preacher school. We do definitely want to increase the frequency of campaigners. Definitely do it during Safari for Souls. But we're going to be open to people coming to help if they want to come for. It's always best to come for 2 weeks because it's such a hard travel. It takes a couple of days to get over there, and it takes a couple of days to get over that traveling with jet lag and the time change. But people usually come 2 or 3 weeks at a time. A lot can be accomplished, and usually we give them a day or two for a little fun, go on safari to see animals. But it really opens people's eyes to not only sharing the gospel, but just seeing how people live in a third world country, how content they are with so little. And it really, especially with younger people, it really opens their eyes, and it's a good thing for them to see that. We also want to encourage expansion of the local youth effort. While we were there, the preacher, Joseph, had just started working with a man that was helping a lot of street youth. Over there, once you are over 13, they kick you out of the orphanages. And so there's a lot of kids on the streets. And a lot of these kids are the ones that are stealing and stuff like that. And so it's good that there's a person there that's helping them not necessarily live on the streets, but also bring them to church and showing them. And then Joseph was getting involved with that man and helping him and getting the kids to come to church, to do Bible studies. And so we didn't get a lot of information. We were just there for a couple of days. And so we want to get more focused on that and help where we can, but mostly to get them involved in church and maybe even possibly get them to go to the Bible school to learn more about the Bible. But it helps them to stay off, to be distracted and keep them busy, just like what we would do here. Kilimanjaro missions, and how shall they preach unless they are sent? We have 3 things that we are asking people when it comes to us moving over there. The first is obviously we need prayers. It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort to fundraise, and so we just ask you to pray for us, but also pray for the work. There's a lot of good things going on. There's a lot of good men and women who are teaching the gospel in Tanzania right now, and they definitely need your prayers, and we ask you to do that. Secondly, we are still fundraising. We've accomplished a lot already, but we still have a ways to go. So we're still looking for congregations to go and preach and share what I've shared with you today. So we ask if anybody knows a church or knows somebody that might know a church that might be interested to share their information with them, or you can give us their information and we'll be willing to call. But thirdly, financially, we are raising money one time and monthly. One time is for our plane tickets, for a vehicle, and just getting settled in over there. We're not doing a container. We're having to buy everything once we get there. But the main focus for fundraising right now is our monthly. It takes a lot of money. You're not just raising money for living, but you're raising money for the work. We'll leave a budget here for the men, and y'all all are welcome to look at and see what I'm talking about. But it's very expensive to do mission work. You're not just raising money for living, but you want to help. Some of that's benevolence, something's helping the church grow, and so that's what the money's for, and that's what you're supporting. And one of the things I like to let people know is when you get involved with finance, but also through prayer, when you do that, you are on board with the missionary. The missionary is just part of the piece of the mission work. When people get involved by prayer and through finances, you're part of saving the souls in Tanzania or wherever they are. You're part of the reason that people obey the gospel. And it's good for people to know that and to remember that it's important that missionaries are sent, but that we're praying for them, we're supporting, and we're communicating with the missionaries over there. I like to leave a few minutes for people to have questions about our work, but also if you have questions about life in Africa, I can answer them the best that I can. So, yes, ma'am.
What about the language barrier? Do they understand English, or do you?
They teach it in the schools, but for the majority of them, the language is Kiswahili. Jessica's already teaching the kids a little bit about it. Jeremiah can tell you, we used to be able to get around back. This was, like I said, the early '90s, and so I used to know it a little. And when I was there back in October, I was starting to pick it up again a little. But I will be hiring a translator more for Bible studies and preaching than getting around. I think after a few months being there, we'll be able to get around pretty easily, because Swahili is a pretty easy language to learn. It's very easy. It just takes a little bit of time. But when it comes to preaching and doing Bible studies, you want to make sure things are said right. And there's been a handful of preachers that are missionaries that have gone on over there at the very end have been able to preach. We'll see what happens at the end of ours. But it's not a hard language. We already have a couple guys in mind to help translate, and so we'll definitely have to have a translator for preaching and teaching. And the ladies, they usually have a lot of ladies there are a lot of people that do know English, but not enough to where you could just teach. You'd have to have a translator. Any other questions about Africa? All right. Well, we have a booth in the back. You're welcome to look at that. And if you want to have questions for me or Jessica, or if it's about Africa, you can ask Jeremiah too. He knows just as much about Africa as I do. So we do appreciate it. One thing I didn't mention is our goal is to be there for 5 years. And so we do plan to go around the first of the year, depending on fundraising. So we are looking forward to it. The kids are happy and excited about it. And I have some friends that are over there now, and it's just itching me. I just want to get over there even quicker. So I'm just ready to be over there and get involved and get to work. So we do appreciate y'all having us. We appreciate y'all listening to us. And if you have any questions, just feel free to catch me before y'all leave. Have a good day. Thank you.
pray together. Father, we thank you for Noel and his heart for serving you and going out and finding the lost. Just pray that you will be with Noel and Jessica, that you will help them in any and every way that they need, that you will bless them, and through them, bless the people of Tanzania. Father, we thank you so much for your blessings and your love. In Jesus' name, amen.